Hey everybody, it's Natalie Harper here with Alair Homes, and we are coming back to you with another episode of the Alair at Home Show. This is episode 7, and we have some very special guests with us today. We are going to be talking all about the art of charcuterie. So we know who doesn't love a good charcuterie board, but there's a fine art not only into making the board, but also assembling the delicious, delectable treats that go on that board. So with me today, we have Alair project manager, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, thanks for being here.
Hi, how are you?
Great. And you made a couple beautiful boards. And Diana, with the Art of Charcuterie, you can see here she's starting to assemble a board. And that's actually a board that you handcrafted recently. Can you tell us a bit about it?
So the board that Diana's working on is it's a walnut. It's primarily walnut wood. Walnut is actually my favorite species of wood to work with. It's a darker tone of wood, and it has just an unbelievably beautiful grain pattern for the most part. And there are certain unique characteristics in that grain pattern. Sometimes it has a real depth to it, so it almost looks like you can see into it. It's a really, really beautiful wood. So that one that she is working on is one of my most recent boards, and one of my favorite boards actually. That was before we did this contest. That was my personal board at our house. And so we've used it a few times for a few get-togethers and whatnot. And when we started talking about doing this, I had that other one that we did the time-lapse video for. It just wasn't big enough, actually, because we wanted to have our contest winner have a substantial board. So that one wasn't big enough. So I donated the one that we had in our house. And I'm actually just in the process of making myself a new one to replace the one that we're giving away to the contest winner.
So, Diana, Art of Charcuterie, what does it mean for you to get such a beautiful, elegant board like this that Jeff made as a starting point to build your masterpiece?
Oh, well, it's always begins with the palette. And so this is like a clean, beautiful palette. And so you get taken in by the wood, and that it was handmade. And so all of that and those little details is just a potential for a great board. So having a wonderful board to start with is you're already out of the starting gate, so to speak.
And it's interesting, Jeff just mentioned that the board was used for a contest. So if you're watching this video and you're not familiar with what we just did, Alair and Art of Charcuterie partnered to do a charcuterie giveaway. So Kelsey from Edmonton is the lucky winner of this board that Diana is assembling right now. So she is going to get this beautiful, delicious board as soon as we're done this video, and as soon as Diana is done turning it into a masterpiece, so she gets to enjoy that this weekend. So a lot of people, Diana, are a bit terrified in terms of how to tackle building a charcuterie board. I mean, for me and some of my friends, we've tried to do it at home. It just never seems to look as gorgeous as your boards end up looking. So if someone wanted to try to do this at home, where would you suggest that they start?
Well, I suggest starting, if they prep first, is really easy, because then you have all your ingredients in front of you, and just like a painting, picking a color to put on your brush, you start with something. So I always start with grapes. I kind of frame my boards with bigger pieces. So I start with grapes, and then I put a beautiful flower in between the grapes. And that's I get to look at that beautiful flower, and already it's beautiful. You've got the green and the pink and the contrast already. So that gives you a little bit more a kind of initiative. Use your intuition to kind of just explore a bit more. And then if you put bigger items, like there's olives, organic chicken liver, pate, and this is one of my new favorites from Cleaner on the Go. It is beer cheese. So it's a great dip. Oh my God, it's to die for. So, and then you surround the pieces you've put with accompaniments. Like I put peppers around for lots of colors. Colors and textures really important. So you want a variety of things that picks the eye up and the contrast. So I put orange and yellow peppers around this little dip for beer cheese. And then I always have half a slice of brie. I use French brie. because I use that as a like a little art piece, because I'll build berries on top of that in a second and put honey and lavender, and that pops really well. So now I'm starting to add my meats and cheeses. Over here I've got some smoked wild duck, which I love. I put different things on the boards, like things that people might not have tried before, even yourself. And so I always go for different flavors, different textures. And I'm really free in trying things out, because that's one of the first things is to learn, is to go for things that you might not have tried before. And there's lots of really great stores like Muley's. This is the summer sausage, which is a great summer light meat. I also have used meats like venison, so which is very tasty. And people don't we live in Alberta, so these are really available for us. And so I just start to like look at the board and think, okay, what do I need next? And then I've got my cheese. So one of my favorite cheeses, you always put an unusual cheese on. This is Molly-Turner truffle. For me, it always goes on my board. It is an acquired taste, but oh my gosh, truffle and cheese is amazing. So an unusual cheese is always good to have on your boat. So I'll place that in its own little place. And as I start to fill in, I always use vegetables as well. Asparagus with Parmesan cheese. I'll just pop in here. And you just start to build it up. I don't really have a technique, so to speak. I just go with the colors and I go, okay, what else is there? And because I've so prepped, I can choose and change things up. So the prepping is essential if you want to build a good board, because if you don't prep, then you're always it always looks a bit messy. So prepping for me is really important. So now I'm just going to add a few things to pop, like cucumbers are really good to add, and some pickles around the meat. And I'm just starting to build my board, and it's really about filling it in. Once you have your good produce, you just start to fill it in. And this is an amazing cheddar from England. It's made cave aged. So I always put something simple on the board. This is probably my simplest cheese, is a cheddar, but it's really wholesome and 18 months, so it has a sharp, nice flavor to it. So I'll just slot that little space there. So you're just filling the space up, and it starts to pop, and you just experiment, really. I made these earlier, a little boncini cucumber and basil with olive oil and herbs, and so you can just pop them in between the spaces, and it starts to pop. Okay, so here I am going to build my little I don't know if you can see here, I'm building my little fruit brie, and I'm just lining up fruit on the edge of the cheese, and then I'm just making a little pattern. And then I'm going to add some pomegranates all over. You can just, and it looks like, and then I'll add the honeycomb.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. I've had the pleasure of trying Diana's charcuterie boards before, and that is always a huge hit.
Yeah, really good. Honey cheese. And then I have these are my go-to, the lavender from Duchess Bakery, and I just sprinkle those over, and they just pop out. And then I also have some dried calendula flowers from Refresh, which are at the markets, Reclaim, sorry, and I put those over, and it's already looking beautiful. It draws you in. The board's all about drawing you in, and then when you give the freedom to your guests to just kind of try, it's meant to be demolished too. Like a lot of my boards, sometimes I've made beautiful boards and I've gone back and people hardly touched them because it was too beautiful to eat. And like I said, encourage people that you just have to really get stuck in and explore. There's levels to it too. And so like I hide things under things. So like somebody might find that a bit later on that they didn't expect. I like doing that. I like hiding little treasures, little bites in places too.
So Jeff, what what stood out to you there? I know the beer cheese, you had a reaction to the beer cheese there as Diana was talking.
I'm a big fan of beer cheese. There's a local company it's the Cheese Factory down on White Avenue. And they make these beer cheese sticks that are just to die for. I'm not sure if that's the same one that she's using. But I was also a little curious about the honeycomb. So is that an actual natural honeycomb that is drenched in honey that you're using?
Yes, it's a honeycomb. It's not ready. The local honeycomb is not ready right now, so I buy drizzle honeycomb. But as soon as it's ready, I go to the local bee suppliers and I get a ton of honey, and I store that, and I always use honey on brie because it really, the flavor of it with the fruit, one bite, and it's really divine.
Indeed, yeah.
So Jeff, you have a couple other boards that you've actually worked on, and you were saying that a lot of these boards are kind of built similar to how Diana is building out the board, is just kind of taking things from here and there and assembling them to eventually get this beautiful masterpiece. So tell us a little bit about the process and the materials that you've been using.
Sure. So I've got a stack of a few pieces that I have just sort of on my shelf in my garage / wood shop here. So this one, for example, I was telling you earlier that when I first started creating these things, I went to one of our cabinet suppliers who had a whole bunch of excess material, essentially scrap garbage of hardwoods kicking around a shop. So I took everything that I possibly could. So this piece of wood, for example, is a style of a cabinet door that I'll use. This is cherry wood. And so I will rip this down into a usable piece on my table saw, and it'll go into something else. So there's pieces like this and pieces like this and pieces like this. This is a bit of a unique hardwood. This is called zebra wood. I actually bought this from Windsor Plywood, but sometimes I use things like this as the accent piece in the middle of a board that I'm working on. And so yeah, I'll take whatever I can find and sort of come up with a rough size of what I want to do, and then just start ripping stock down to a reasonable, workable size. I don't have a lot of large equipment here in my garage, but my planer and my sanders and everything all sort of have about a 12 to 15 inch max capacity. So I'm somewhat limited by that, but all those sort of parts and pieces can end up looking like something like this. So this has 4 different species of wood in it. The center bit is all Brazilian jatoba wood. So it was, again, a freebie that I got from a cabinet contractor. It's very, very dense. Like it's one of the heaviest woods that are on the planet. And when this is actually the same species, you can see the light and the dark of it there. But that is, it's just rotated 90 degrees. So it's an end cut versus a grain cut. And when you do that, when you turn the boards like that, then you can get these very, very contrasting looks and finishes. So this is jatoba and maple and a red oak. And I think I have a little bit of cherry in here as well. So that's how this one turned out. And yeah, it's kind of just a hodgepodge. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. You put things together and see what looks good. And generally, once it's all sanded and sealed, it all looks good because wood is a beautiful product and a beautiful material. So you can't really go wrong, but it is a lot of fun. So
kind of similar to the question I had for Diana in terms of people that want to be able to make something like this at home. I mean, it is the Alair at home show after all. So, you know, the purpose of this show is to help people if they want to make some of these things themselves at home. So what would you say, Jeff, for someone who maybe would like to make their own charcuterie or cutting board at home? What advice would you have for them to get started?
Well, a good place. Well, first of all, look for free material if you can find it. That's how I started. I knew somebody, or somebody just has something left over kicking around in your garage. That's a good starting point. You do want to use hardwood. You don't want to use softwood, so there's no fir and pine or that kind of wood species is not good for it because it's too porous. But any sort of a hardwood is a good starting point. Windsor Plywood is a good place to get material. That's where I get stuff. As far as tools go, my first ones, I've acquired a few pieces since I started doing this that make it a little bit easier, but you don't have to have a lot of tools. Essentially, what you need is a table saw, because you do have to have square material because it has to be glued together. So surfaces do need to be exact, well, as close to exact as you can. So you need a table saw and a sander and some glue and some clamps. And really that's about it. And you can put something together. It doesn't have to be that elaborate. And actually, I'll show you this other one that I'm just working on. So this is one that I just started a few days ago. So this is just a piece of walnut that I picked up from Windsor Plywood. Essentially, it was just a board. So this is just going to be one piece. There's no gluing or anything other than coming up with a shape. I cut it out with my jigsaw, and then I just start sanding. So this piece of material was $40. I've made it to look like this now. And here, I'll show you what is really cool with this. So this is a piece of walnut. So I'll give you just a little demonstration on how these grains pop when they get wet. So I think we can see that pretty well. So if you see that, so it goes from nothing to, and it really brings out the color in the grain of the wood.
It truly is a piece of art too. I think once you are not using your charcuterie or cutting board to eat off of, a lot of people hang it up on their wall, or they put it on their table or their kitchen island. It ends up being like an actual piece of art in someone's home. Do you notice that?
Yeah, we hang ours just on the corner of our kitchen, so it's a display piece. Even more so because it's something that I made. But if it was just something that you either bought or won in a contest, they are gorgeous because of just the natural material.
Yeah. And let's throw it back and see where we're at with Diana here. It looks like that's really coming together. So yeah. Diana, it actually doesn't take too long. Like you said, once you have all the prep, you have everything prepped, it's really just about the assembly and seeing what works best, and you can just move things around as you see fit. So it's really not that complicated. Anyone at home can do this, really.
Absolutely. It's not, it's because when you see something like that, they go, how do you do this? But really, it's just giving you the freedom. The prepping is the work. You need to prep beforehand. And if you have everything out, it's so easy to put things together because all the thinking is done. You put the thinking down and you let your heart flow just kind of go, and you'll be inspired. You just let yourself go. Just really trust yourself in this and let yourself go. And it'll always come out beautiful because arranged chaos is beautiful.
It is truly a masterpiece. Arranged chaos is a masterpiece.
As long as you're, having really good ingredients is really important. So, making sure that your ingredients is really good quality. And Muley's is a great deli place, local deli that has amazing products. Italian Center, I shop at the Boujon Bakery, the cheese shop, Hattie's Cheese Shop. I'm always looking out for different kinds of cheeses. I lived in Italy for a while, and so I was educated on the textures and flavors and cheeses, so I have a palate for that. So I'm always looking for something new, and I'm always looking for something local because I want to support Edmonton in any way I can. So I'm finding out different discoveries in this COVID time of people that make different things, and that's been really lovely to put on your board. Local as possible, and of course you can't do that with French cheese, but there are some good cheesemakers in Canada.
That's great. Well, it's always, everyone loves to support local as much as possible. So I think you gave a couple of great places that people can start with if they wanted to do this at home. But for someone who maybe doesn't want to do this at home and they want you to do it for them, what are you offering right now to people in the Edmonton area?
Well, I'm just slowly opening. I've been closed for a couple of months because I'm a kind of a luxury item, really. And I saw that during this COVID time that the restaurants that were really have bricks and mortar to pay for needed the support. So it was clear for me not to have anything going. But now I'm starting slowly to open because you need to make a living again and start again, start fresh. Had this time to reset a few things. And so now I'm starting to offering boards like this. I make these, I just started a series called The Garden of Eden, because we're in summer, so the produce is so fresh and abundance right now. So I'm creating these amazing charcuterie boxes that I can deliver to people's homes. And of course, for people's ceremonies that are getting married outside as well, I can do onesie boxes and twosie boxes as well. So I'm being a bit more experimental and things like that. So I'm really up for anything at the moment. If somebody has an idea or what they want to do, they just need to give me a call, and we'll go through it. So I'm just re-entering the market again, so to speak, and I'm just open to serve what, supply and demand, so to speak, at the moment. I buy everything fresh. I don't, so everything is bought on the day or the day before, and yeah, so it's delivered in that fresh quality too.
And where can people find out more about these beautiful boards that you make?
I have a website, www.artofcharcuterie.ca. My Instagram is Art of Charcuterie, and all my details are on there. But Instagram's pretty popular, so you can easily DM me in that, and I'll get back to you immediately.
That's wonderful. Well, I have one more question for Jeff, but thank you so much, Diana, for doing this beautiful board and helping us to showcase the art of charcuterie, literally your business name, but also an art on its own. So, Jeff, back to you. One last question. Yeah. What's better, being a project manager or making these beautiful charcuterie boards? Because you're pretty talented at both.
Well, both are fun. I enjoy both. I enjoy both very much. I've been in the construction business for 20 years now, and still enjoy the challenges and the victories of the day-to-day. I do like doing this kind of stuff when I get home at night. It's calming to sit here and sand something for 45 minutes sometimes, or the creative aspect of it where you're looking at pieces of stock and trying to find particular grains or colors that go together, and trying to make something as nice as you can. So that it's a bit of an escape in that regard. But yeah, I'm always. I was a carpenter before I was ever a project manager, so I've always liked working with my hands and working with wood specifically. And I don't generally get an opportunity to do that on a day-to-day basis. So having the tools and the space in my garage to be able to do this sort of thing as a hobby is a lot of fun.
Well, we want to thank you very much for donating the board for Kelsey to enjoy, and thank you both for being here. I've always been fascinated by charcuterie in general, and I think a lot of people are. It's such a great treat. It's great for at home if you're just enjoying date night. It's great for a gathering, or like you said, Diana, for events, of course. And as we start to get back to, hopefully a bit more normal events, definitely if you're planning an event in the future, check out Diana at Art of Charcuterie. And thank you guys both again. And we will check in with you again. What a beautiful board. Thanks, guys. Signing off.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. See you.